Sonic Generations was a game released on 2011 on the PS3 and Xbox 360. The game was very well received by fans and critics alike, and for good reason. But on the same day, the 3DS counterpart also came along with it, and the reception for that was mixed, to say the least. But as I grew older, I started to notice the quality in some of these games. So when my 5-year-old mind gained consciousness, all I could think was this. So in this video, I'm going to be looking over the main game of Sonic Generations 3DS and mostly pointing out what's wrong with it and maybe comparing it to its counterpart of it. Before we get this started, my name is Super Gamer Leo. Please consider liking and subscribing, and let's get this started. You start the game by immediately getting thrown into Green Hill Act 1. How original. Nothing crazy happens, you'll get through it in about 30 seconds if you know what you're doing. It'll actually be pretty quick. Almost too quickly. Also, if you didn't know, they also stole the song from Generations for Green Hill Act 1. Very hardworking, aren't they, dimps?
Whoa!
What is this? Why? I feel like the scene is supposed to come off as intimidating, but I think dimps just copy and pasted an image and just photoshopped it here and called it a day. Wouldn't it be better if they just compressed the cutscenes like Colors DS did? That would have been so much better. The cutscenes are basically the same as the original game, just without the extra characters besides Sonic, Tails, and their classic counterparts. So I'll just be skipping those because they're concerning to look at. Okay, now with Act 2, you get used to modern Sonic for the first time, and well, I don't actually hate it. Sure, it's not really 3D, it just plays with the camera angles, even though that's the standard set for classic Sonic in the original game. The level design isn't that bad. There's plenty of speed. I mean, sometimes they're just objects preventing you from just boosting forward, which sometimes just doesn't work in a 2D format, but you know, it's not that bad. There are plenty of alternative paths in this level. Not that much though. And this level is pretty short, so there's not that much to do wrong. It's just they could just add a lot more to it. There's not that many branching paths. There's a few, but not that much. Alright, now for the special stage. Yeah, you heard me. Special stage. In the console version, you would just get the Chaos Emeralds for the bosses or rivals, but those are their own things. So here you just do this Sonic Hero style thing, where you just collect colored orbs to boost and chase the Chaos Emerald. The first one is really simple. There's not really much to do here. Really simple concept. It's just that with Sonic Heroes there was a lot more strategy to it since you had all three characters, but it's just Sonic, just boost and go forward. Oh, guess what? Fun fact! So for Green Hill Casino Nights and Mushroom Hill Act 1, they're all ripped from the Genesis games. Isn't that wonderful? So I'm just gonna be skipping over those because why would I go over them? But they're fine, I guess. Except classic Sonic has no momentum in this game. It's so weird. Casino Night Zone Act 2 is kind of confusing. You go fast for a while, but sometimes you go in the wrong direction during these turns in the levels, and it just kind of makes you go the wrong way if you miss, because there's not really anything blocking, just further showing the holes in the level design. There's also this part near the end where you're just spinning on this wheel thing. I really can't tell what's happening. It's spinning so fast. No, seriously, what am I doing? The second special stage is basically the first one, well, with spikes, just adding a slight bit more difficulty, but they're not that hard to dodge, trust me. Mushroom Hill is just as mediocre as Casino Night. You basically just aimlessly boost forward and then occasionally bounce on mushrooms. That's really the main thing about this. And Omega Attack Chains, those exist too. But at the end of the level, there's also this little segment where you're just rail grinding, but it's only on one rail, and all you can do is boost. It's basically a QTE, you really can't do anything, further proving the poor level design of this game. I don't see any real difficulty spike for Special Stage 3, so let's just move on to the rival and boss fight. This rival boss is incredibly boring. To save your time of watching this, you just run forward as classic Sonic for a minute straight. That's really it. Nothing much else to do here. Also, it's in a race, not a boss fight like the way the console version was. The reason the console version is superior to it is because, it was more special in a way that instead of making the Metal Sonic boss race per se as it was in the CD version, they reimagined it into an actual boss with its own unique moves and attacks. So it really did make it a unique experience, but here, I don't know, it just kind of loses the authenticity, and it's not that fun since there aren't even that many obstacles anyways, just jumping on springs and moving forward. That's all they could think of to do. They also ruined Big Arms. What I mean is, how in the original Sonic 3, the final boss was Big Arms, the boss fight was actually very difficult because you had to perfectly time your attacks, usually with the Insta Shield. But here, you don't really have to worry about that, but, that kind of brought a challenge because this boss is so easy. Its attack patterns are really predictable. You could literally get through this in 30 seconds. So, pretty quick. There's nothing that bad about it. It's just that it's too quick and boring. I mean, just look at the Death Egg robot from the console version. So for the first two attacks, you do just attack it normally, but then after that, it switches up things a bit, making it more unique, and it's a new way of attacking it. It's the gimmicks that make these interesting, but the Big Arms doesn't have anything. Its pattern stays the same throughout the whole boss. That's why it's not fun. What? This is the absolute worst era of this game. First of all, there's only 2 zones because you need to even out the amount of levels in order to match with the amount of Chaos Emeralds, 7 in total. But the level design here is so repetitive. After Classic Sonic unlocks the homing attack, it's just spamming the home attack after homing attack after homing attack after homing attack. There's just too much here, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. At this point, I'm just spamming the B button throughout the whole level. And there's also these windy things, which I find very annoying to go, and it's really easy to slip out of it. This level has gotta be one of the worst in this game though. Act 2 is basically just Act 1, but you can run on water. Almost the whole level is the same thing, just boost forward except Sonic can run on water. That's the only real difference here. The gimmicks are exactly the same. Oh, and I forgot to mention this part exists, but it's nothing crazy, just keep spamming the B button. After getting the 4th Chaos Emerald, we move on to what has to be the absolute worst level in this game. Radical Highway as a concept alone is already something that doesn't make sense. Sonic Generations is a game that is supposed to celebrate Sonic's history, except Sonic was never in Radical Highway before. Shadow was in Sonic Adventure 2. So moving on from that already strange detail, Act 1 is just about as dull as the game gets. There's actually a lot of speed in this level. But that's the problem. You have segments like this where you literally just run forward for a pretty long time, and then you just get these pretty slow down platforming sections, and then it just kinda goes back and forth. It just feels really out of place. Also, the stages here are pretty bad, but Act 1 just comes out more bland than anything. Act 2 is just as bad as Act 1. I'm 99% sure that the first half of this level was taken from Shadow's Radical Highway and just copy and pasted into 2D, which is why it doesn't work. See, the level was meant to be in 3D because it allowed you to play with the level environment more. But here, in such a limited space, there's not that much to do. But don't get me wrong, 2D Sonic can be good and fun. Just look at the original Genesis games, or Sonic Mania. It's just that here, it just wasn't meant to be like that. That's why it doesn't work, but otherwise faces many of the same problems that Act 1 does. Once you get the 5th Chaos Emerald, you move on to the Shadow Rival boss, which in short is not even worth talking about. It's just a Metal Sonic boss fight, but you can boost. That's really all there is to it. After that, you face the Bio-Lizard, which is just a worse version of the original one. The original one isn't bad by no means, but it's definitely not my favorite. but it just took it and restricted it to again a 2D environment, which just doesn't work as well. It creates less of a challenge because when you want to dodge the Biolizard's attack, it's just a matter of jumping up and down, not really moving around the area. So you have to do the same thing for 2.5 minutes straight. And there's not really that much of a challenge to it, it just drags on for too long. And I should mention that trying to home attack on this thing is an absolute pain, because you have like half a second frame to actually attack it. And it's just really annoying. Because for the majority of the game you're just spamming the homing attack, so why can't you do that here? Then after that you home attack on these bubbles, which again, because it's limited to a 2D environment, it just doesn't work. It's too easy, you just spam. That's all you have to do. After that, 2 cycles later, you get to the final part where you just float. Basically the same thing as the original. Which, I just don't understand. The depth perception here is absolutely horrible. I really can't tell where Sonic is going with this. I can't tell you how many times I've taken damage because of this. In all seriousness though, Shadow Generations was able to make this boss an absolute masterpiece. Someone please explain to me what the point of this is? Alright, time for another fun fact that you didn't ask for. Sonic Generations 3DS was supposed to celebrate Sonic's handheld history. And throughout the whole game, the modern era is the only one who does that, starting with Water Palace. And again, there's only 2 zones here. Water Palace comes from Sonic Rush, if you didn't know that. Really good game. So, Water Palace Act 1 is pretty basic. It doesn't have that same high-speed feel as the levels like Hydro City did, or just comparing this to Seaside Hill, which was another water level. That level was more platforming heavy, but there was plenty to explore around there. Here, there just isn't that much encouragement, like no collectibles or red star rings. Oh, and the game gets you used to running forward, so this part at the end, it always gets me messed up because I just move forward and then I either fall down or I miss. Really don't get it. Act 2, just like Emerald Coast, you can run on water and jump off it to get to a higher route. Oh, now you actually have to use it. Emerald Coast, it wasn't really needed, just to live. But here you can actually go up now. Just one problem. You're going way too fast that you can't even tell what's in front of you. You could tell me it's a skill issue, but I want you to try to go at max speed and jump into that platform and telling me you didn't see it. I really find that annoying. There's also some parts of the level which there's this tiny platform thing, but you have like half a second to just jump on it. I either find myself either immediately falling off or just not even landing on it, because the balancing on that thing is terrible. I don't understand how you're even able to use that. I've never perfected that part. Yo, there is no way you're actually telling me this. Great news! You actually have to jump in this special stage. Okay, we're moving on. Tropical Resort. A level that has the same problem as Planet Wisp. It's anticlimactic. Personally, if it were up to me, I would have chosen Asteroid Coaster and bring back the Void Wisp, but it's whatever, we're already here. So for Act 1, you get reintroduced to the Burst Wisp, which is from Sonic Colors DS. So I guess it's pretty cool. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like the Wisp gets a little overused here. But it's the only level that has this, so I guess it's fine. The level format is kind of interesting though. Since you're using the Burst Wisp for most of the level, it's much more vertical and repetitive. But then they add these spinny things, which they're fun. And this part just exists.
Gotta go faster, 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 faster.
Why? Then you fly in rockets and you beat the final classic Sonic level in this game. Not too bad though, you'll get through it in about 3 minutes. Mostly because the burst exists and you can have a lot of fun with that. Trust me, if it were only Sonic here, I would have a very different opinion. Act 2, contrary to Act 1, I think the Laser Wisp here is actually very underused. You only use it for about 2 to 3 times. Besides that, nothing much really, just a lot of speed. Which here is actually done pretty fine, just a bit of platforming and speed. Then if you take the top half and you go on max speed, just boosting and you can't see anything in front of you, you are definitely going to die like this. I guarantee it. There is no way to tell that you're gonna fall off into a bottomless pit. That just wasn't fair. You go fast for a little longer, and for the finale of this level, you go rail grinding. And you can't even boost on them. And these orange things insta-kill you. And it's also very short. I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a kind of underwhelming finish to this game. I mean, the whole game was already underwhelming on its own, but I was kind of expecting more, since considering this level is also kind of short too. One final Chaos Emerald, and we move on to the Silver Rival Boss. It's just a Shadow Rival Boss, except instead of boosting, Silver just teleports. So no matter how far ahead you are, he will always be neck and neck with you. And this is about as simple as the level design gets. This is literally just moving forward. And to make these little shortcuts, you just jump, which it's just pretty normal, which isn't really that much of a challenge. And also, Silver hitting you is just unfair in this rival boss. The Egg Emperor is actually pretty easy, which is weird for a boss that's right before the final boss. You just boost forward at him while he shoots these yellow spears at you, which are easily dodgeable, and then you just boost it into him to make him take damage. That's really it, and then sometimes you just boost it to the background, which I guess is pretty cool, but more or less it's the same thing, except now there are more rocket shooting at you. But the same thing, you just boost right into him to make him take damage. This repeats back and forth until you will eventually get to the final hit, where he just shoots more yellow spears at you, which again are still pretty decently easily dodgeable, and then you boost into him one final time and then he just goes kablooey. No, he just stands still and he explodes, but it's not that dramatic here because it's pretty bad. Now for the final boss, the Time Eater. Just one thing to say right away, since none of the other characters are here in this game anyways, you don't have to deal with them telling you the most blatantly obvious things.
That looks like a homing shot!
Yes, I know he's gonna go pew pew tails, I know, I see it. This boss is actually pretty different from the console version. You start at the 2D part instead of the 3D part, which is alright. Those yellow spears are basically the same, but there's also this green orb attack which the regular version doesn't have. Instead of manually switching to 3D mode, the game does it for you. When you're here, you actually have to dodge the Time Eater's hands, which requires perfect timing to dodge, which I actually do like here. That means there's a bit of a skill ceiling. When you get close to the Time Eater, you just spam up. I don't really know what happens here, but you will eventually hit it. Towards the end of the boss, you have to dodge these yellow clocks that are constantly moving, which again requires a bit of good timing, which is pretty decent, alright? But do that a couple of times and you'll eventually deal the final blow where you defeat the Time Eater.
Why you?
Wow. I just wasted 2 hours of my life. Well anyways, that's basically the whole game. It's actually incredibly short, and clearly if you couldn't tell, it is absolutely inferior to the phenomenal console version. But does anything I said in this video matter anyways? No. I don't think anyone really uses a 3DS anymore. So what if you have a copy of Sonic Generations 3DS? What should you do with it? Goodbye. Yeah, but that's all I really have to say for this video. You know, this is actually the first Sonic game I ever played, so playing the console version for this first time was actually a real experience for me. Speaking of which, why don't you click on this video right here where I rank all of Shadow's ability in Shadow Generations.